That's right. We're right here live on Facebook this afternoon. We're live. No, we're not. Now we're live on the radio, folks. Hello, everybody. We're right here live on the radio. Hey, I'm Ann Eller. It's going to be a great afternoon right here on WCRS. We have three guys right here who are into history and want to share it with you. And since we're dealing with the 250th anniversary of this great country, it is important that we here in South Carolina know about some of the battles and whatnot that even took place very close in our area. So this afternoon we have Chip Tinsley, Greenwood 250 chair. He's also Greenwood County Historical Society president and the Cambridge Chapter SAR president, retired. Well, you are retired, aren't you?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. All right. Then we have Eric Williams. Many of you know Eric for some of the beautiful art that he has done. You may also remember that he was at the Chief Park Ranger at 96. He is also part of the Greenwood 250 organization. He's a member of the Cambridge SAR, local artist and reenactor. We used to have Eric on all the time talking about all the tinctures and whatnot and some of the gruesome tools that they used if you suffered. One thing for sure, you wouldn't want to get hurt if you could help it, because when he came at you with that sword there to kind of saw off your leg or something like that, you'd be a little afraid. So, but Eric has always had an interest in being a reenactor. As I said, he's retired from the Chief Park Ranger at 96 National Historic Site. And also today, somebody that I did not know, Wade Harrison, is with us. He also is a member of the Greenwood 250. He is the executive director of the Upper Savannah Land Trust, which he says is, i.e., I'm their only employee. Okay. And lead.
There's one more.
One more?
We have two now.
Two, okay. He's also the lead historian in Long Canes. So welcome, everybody. Glad to have you here with us this afternoon.
Thank you, Ann. We appreciate you
Thank
allowing
you.
us to come back again.
Absolutely. Well, this is going to be an excellent event. It's coming up on April 18th, which is 2 weekends away. Is that right? Two weekends away. And Chip, why don't you just give us a little overview about what this is all about?
Well, this is our first, I think it's our first big event. We are unveiling three historical markers, and we don't use the word marker, we say interpretive signage in the beautiful Wisteria Park in Troy, South Carolina. And we have been working for going on 3 years now with McCormick 250. We did in the beginning with McCormick County, and we've been co-funded by the South Carolina 250 Commission. And we've been working with the town of Troy as well, and they've come in and helped us in great detail. And actually tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., we will all be down in Troy installing the markers. So we will not only be developing, creating the verbiage, creating the markers, we will be installing the markers themselves tomorrow morning. So it's been a labor of love, a labor of effort in some ways, but we worked, Rick Green with Upper Savannah Council of Governments administered the grant for us. He's been the taskmaster, and we appreciate his efforts as well. And we're really looking forward to this. This is a lot of work, and we've enjoyed most every minute of it. And
key word, most.
Most every minute of it. And for those of us that went through creating the narratives to come up with the final, we do understand that, because it is a labor and it is intense, and it has to be that way because we had to make sure we had the right verbiage, the right amount of verbiage, and from that, and Eric will talk about that in a little bit about how that verbiage ended up creating the paintings that he did later.
Now, one of the most interesting things about the Battle of Long Canes is we don't know exactly where it was, correct? Wade, is that correct?
That is correct. It is debated.
Debated.
There is kind of a traditional local conventional wisdom as to where it was. And there are also some interesting scraps of local knowledge written up here and there that tend to conflict with that. And then there's also a recent, fairly academic treatment of the whole thing that theorized that, gosh, it wasn't anywhere near where you guys think it was. It was at least 3 miles away from there. And all those different positions have some merit. And
so how do you make the decision? Later. How do you make the decision on where to put the marker or markers or the interpretive signage?
Well, I think the location of the markers, we put those in Troy because, as Wade will tell you even in more detail, he will say it's a running skirmish, a skirmish that ensued in an area and moved along. It was not a one position, but it kind of moved in different positions, and he can tell that in great detail. So our mission was to place the markers in a place that would not only tell the story, but it would also be a place that people could go. And being in Troy, which is right there at McCormick and Greenwood County, so it is a so to say, co-place for both places, even though it is in Greenwood County. It kind of goes along with the South Carolina 250 mission of getting people out of their cars, getting them off the interstates, get them in rural areas, getting them to see other areas within the state. So Troy is a perfect opportunity and a perfect place for that. It will be in that new Wisteria Park that was part of the penny sales tax, I think in 2016, I believe, where Hodges and Troy and Greenwood, others had parks built. So it's going to be there, and the 3 signs are going to be perfect for that. People will be able to go to different areas, continue on into McCormick, continue in other areas. It also, I hate to kind of skew off to this, but we're working now on another marker. There will be 2 markers, one in downtown Greenwood, one in the 96 National Historic Site. The one in Greenwood will be right between the museum and the new destination Greenwood,
the old Powell's
Center,
building. Yeah, right.
And it will be right outside of that, and it will have, we started off with 12 sites, but I think we're now up to hopefully and possibly 17 sites, including all the sites in Greenwood, and it will tie in the 2 sites in McCormick, which is Willington and the Dorn Mill Complex. It will tie in the Abbeville Chamber of Commerce and the Lawrence County Museum, and it will be shown on a map of Greenwood County inside of the old 96 district, which we were all a part of. So we will show these sites. It will have very small amounts of narrative, so you can look and see, and you can see how they go together on the map, and you can decide how to go visit. And this part, you can go easily from downtown Greenwood. You can go to Williamson and Whitehall, which is another one we're hopefully wrapping up pretty soon, and you can go straight into Troy to see these markers we're putting in. You can see the Long Cane Massacre. You can head on into the town of McCormick and see those. So it's part of a bigger picture that we have.
This is just the first one coming up.
Right. We're unveiling with Mount Ariel and the town of Hodges on May the 3rd, a South Carolina Department of Archives and History marker in the town of Hodges for the town of Hodges and Captain Hodges, who will be on that marker as well. So that marker will also be on our gateway map marker that I was describing just a few minutes ago.
So the one in Greenwood doesn't actually signify any battle or anything. It's just more of a route.
It will house all the battles or sites or markers within Greenwood County to show you how to get there, where to go, and a snippet of what they were about and how they connect to the 250 or other events, and how they connect to Lawrence County and McCormick County and Abbeville County.
Okay. Well, that sounds
It
that
is.
sounds. This is just the first part of this project. This is a massive project here.
Well, people think, okay, July 4th, 1776, July 4th, 2026, we've got the 250, it's over with. Well, that's kind of our problem, because when we get to July 4th, 2026, we're not finished. We would love to be finished. We would love to be everything there, but we've got more ideas, and we just added one to this gateway map yesterday that we've talked about, but we
Well,
put
aren't they saying it's supposed to go on for 2 more years after
Well,
It
2026?
ought to go on for 8 more years
Really?
because the war lasted that long.
20,
Well, maybe,
33.
yeah,
Celebrate
okay.
250th
Yeah.
for everything.
Right.
We're going to be celebrating and remembering and memorializing a long time.
At least to 2031 around here, because the last battle of 96,
We just like to fight. Is that what you're saying?
the siege of 96, which was the longest siege in the Revolutionary War, was 1781. So we've got a while to get to that 2031.
So why is this important? Because I think a lot of people go, history, pfft, why do we need to know it?
This is the way I would describe the importance of the Battle of Long Cane. It occurred at a time when a whole lot of patriot sentiment in the South Carolina backcountry, which is what we call the counties on the frontier that include Greenwood and maybe another county or two upstate, where the morale was low. Charleston had fallen. 96 had been occupied. The British and the Loyalists were in charge, and a couple of the most important backcountry patriot leaders, Brigadier General Andrew Williamson and Colonel Andrew Pickens, were on the sidelines. They took parole, and so did all of their men. Huge chunks of the backcountry militia were off the field, and some of them came back, and there were battles in and out for the rest of the year. That Charleston fell in May of 1780. By December of 1780, it was clear that we hadn't given up, but people were still off the field, and the British were still at 96, and there was a lot of interest in all of these patriot fighters that were hiding out in the Long Canes. And you all know where the Long Canes were. That is McCormick County, Greenwood County, Abbeville County, all up and down Long Cane Creek and tributaries, which had been settled already for 15 or 20 years by Chip's ancestors and a lot of other locals.
Right.
So that was a place where the British, the Loyalists, had not really penetrated. And
So
they
what
got-
does it have to do with us today? I think that's the question I want to know. Why is it important to us today? Because I think a lot of young people, they don't really know much about history. It's like, pfft, so why is it important?
Well, I can answer that question too if you want me to.
I do. That's what I want the answer to, because I think
You
people
start
are.
it, because if you don't, we'll go on forever.
The things that went on in the 1770s and 80s in the American Revolution were ordinary people reacting to really dramatic times in all directions.
Right.
And they ended up finding a violent solution, for better or for worse. And we still have people on all sides of many issues who are flawed and brilliant and occasionally stupid and all that it means to be a human being, fighting things out, whether it's in the ballot box or the courtroom or occasionally rolling up sleeves. And I think the Revolutionary War, particularly in South Carolina, which was more of a civil war than a chess match between geopolitical powers, is a great example of how that can unfold. And I don't think it's necessarily a good example,
Right.
but it's one that we should learn from.
Okay.
And he hit on a key thing. In the backcountry in South Carolina, in our area, it was a civil war. This was not, this and this. It was a civil war where you had a neighbor and a brother that were fighting each other, or a brother and two cousins fighting each other. That's what went on in our part of the county, in our part of the state, in our part of the country. That was that type of war that was being fought in the Revolutionary War.
But it wasn't the Civil War. It was the Revolutionary War.
It was a civil
exactly,
war.
It was a civil war
war
within the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
And it's cliche-ish to say, but if you do not learn from faults of the past, good things in the past, all the things of the past, if you just take that out and forget it and let people meander around without learning, obviously human nature is to continue on and make the same mistakes. So it is
history has a tendency to repeat itself
over and over, and it does not mean that things aren't going to be repeated, but it is our responsibility to try to show and teach and educate, and people are still going to make up their minds. But if you don't allow that opportunity, we're neglecting that great teaching moment for all people, young people, older people, and so on.
Now, Chip, you used to teach history, wasn't it? History and where shows?
I didn't teach as much history as I wanted to, but government and econ and social studies, yes.
Right,
yes.
Yeah. And so I would be curious, how did you think that your students reacted when you did cover some history? Were they interested?
Not as much as you wanted them to, but they come back now.
Right.
30 years later and 20 years later and 8 years later. The mayor, who I hope is listening right now, Mayor Smith, was a former student of mine.
Really?
So, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
So there are many students in Greenwood, and when they come up, they normally say, I enjoyed how you taught. I enjoyed what you taught. It was not about you've got to learn this, but you've got to learn. And that's what teaching is. It's the ability to think and think creatively and figure out things on your own. And you're not going to always think the same way. Wade and I may not always think the same way on issues.
Right.
He looks very, right?
Puzzled.
But,
you don't think about it my way?
Right. But you have to have the ability to be respectful. And that's what we've really lost getting to today, is the respect of other people's thoughts and opinions. In our day, it was, okay, Ann, I really don't agree with what you say or what you think. And on that, there's no way I could ever do it. But, okay.
It's your opinion. Yeah, right.
We have lost that. I call it, I hate to say it, we're in a Jerry Springer world where we react with that kind of outcome.
Well, everybody's looking for the moment, right? The moment. Yeah, the Jerry Springer moment. That would be a good one. There's probably a lot of people out there that don't remember Jerry Springer, but, he set people up to fight it out, duke it out. Yes.
That's what we've continued to do, rather than, I don't have to agree with what you say, but I do need to agree with allowing you to say it and think it. And
we're going to have to agree to disagree, used to be the phrase, right?
That's exactly right. And our history is that way. There are a lot of things and a lot of people and a lot of events and a lot of times that we don't have to agree with, but we have to learn from it on both sides and move on.
Right.
And we've lost that step, and that's the hard part, coming back. And I think a lot of what goes on in the American Revolution, a lot of it in the backcountry, and a lot of these players, we could talk about, he mentioned Brigadier General Andrew Williamson, who Wade's mentioned and written, and we've got here, and the Benedict Arnold, some people call him, of this part of the world, and he's so misunderstood, and you could talk to two different people and get two entirely different opinions on Andrew Williamson, but he was the highest ranking person in the backcountry.
Highest ranking patriot leader in the backcountry in 1780 when
this happened.
Wow.
And he wasn't there.
He wasn't there?
No.
Where was he at?
That's one of the mysteries.
Okay. See, I think history can be fascinating, but it all depends on the teacher, the presenter,
and the context.
Yes, and the context.
Yeah. And if you place the student, whether the student is Eric's age, sorry, Eric, or a 8-year-old's age, it's placing the student in the context and thinking and getting them to think and getting them to analyze. how they would be in that context. That
Exactly.
to me, and I still work, part-time with student teachers, and I'm constantly trying to get them to see that. Place the student in the context, place them in that, and you've got creative thinking the easiest way you can do it.
Absolutely.
You can plan for an hour, or you can just say, what would you do? How would you do?
Right.
So.
And also knowing what the outcome was and then working it back if there's a way to have affected a different outcome.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. So on this battle, and then we're going to talk to Eric here for a second, what was the issue, Wade, on the battle?
The issue was, as I said, there was a Patriot militia that was hiding out in the Long Canes. And the British leadership at 96, which is not far away, 20 miles or so, got wind of that. And they were worried that this Patriot militia were trying to get those two Andrews that I mentioned, Andrew Williamson and Andrew Pickens, back in the game, because they were off the field. They had taken
off
parole.
the grid. They were off the grid.
They were off the grid, and both sides were trying to get them to come to one side or the other, right? Because there are just ordinary people all over the backcountry fighting for one side or the other, sometimes switching sides. And they were in limbo.
Today I'm with you, tomorrow I'm with them. Is that what you're telling me?
so the British said, we got to get those guys and make sure that they aren't, sweet talking these two mysterious officers into going back full force on the Patriot side. And they went from 96 to Whitehall, which is Williamson's home and headquarters, because they heard they were there. And Williamson wasn't there, but neither were the Patriot militia. They had been there, but they had kept going. And they had some intel from someone that, they went 6 miles down towards the Long Canes. And the Loyalist force galloped after them, and it was really late in the day, and they set up camp, and the Loyalist colonel wrote in his notes, the day being spent, we made camp, and we had fallen 3 miles short of and whether that was 3 miles short of the 6 miles they were supposed to go, or 3 miles short of where they actually were, we don't know. That's an ambiguity, and it leads to this question of where did all this happen. But wherever it happened, the British were camped, and they sent out a foraging party to look for food. There were Patriot militia back in there somewhere. They didn't know where. And this is where we have a painting of how they made contact.
We do.
So what's the deal? I mean, Wade has set it up, and now I'm sitting on the end of my seat. What's going on here, Eric?
Well, the foraging party raided a local farm to get livestock and to make provisions to take back to the Loyalist camp. And that's what one of the paintings is. It signifies and typifies what was happening at that time. With the Loyalists just getting surprised by Elijah Clark's force coming to and discovered them foraging on this farm. And the painting, which we'll have on display on April 18th, the painting shows the Loyalists. They've taken a cow. They're leading a cow away. One Loyalist soldier has a couple of chickens by the feet, and they're flapping their wings. But they're taking, and one is holding a pig. And they all, I've tried to capture in the painting that moment of surprise. You could paint soldiers, you could paint them, firing their muskets at each other, holding up a sword, and you could do that. That's easy enough. But I wonder what's different about Long Canes. Well, to me, one of the differences was the element of surprise. And that's the second painting also. I guess we'll get into that a little later. But the first painting shows the element of surprise. The loyalists are the one that has the chickens is turning around like he hears something. It's the Patriot force coming, marching, galloping and running through the field toward them. So I tried to, and one of the soldiers is wounded. One of the loyalist soldiers is wounded on the ground. So I tried to catch the element of surprise. One militia commander, loyalist commander is on horseback, and he's ready to ride away and lead the group back to the main camp, but he's turning around with his head turned around like, what's going on back there?
Right.
I've got him posed like that. I wanted to capture the Battle of Long Canes, and it's what made it different than a field battle. And it was a running skirmish, and I wanted to capture that. And I think the first painting I did captures that first part of it.
Now, in this battle, so you're telling me you got some loyalists, but that wasn't the whole group of patriots. Was it just a few that happened to be there? Is this how this happened, or
they sent out a foraging party?
Right, but I mean,
the loyalists.
On the loyalists,
right.
But what about on the patriots? Had they sent out any whistles or anything that said, "Come hither, get here overnight"? I mean, get here right away to be part of this battle.
That's a great question. So a little more detail on this Patriot force is that it had some South Carolina militia and some Georgia militia, including Elijah Clark, really famous journeyman Patriot officer. So many battles he was crucial in, and incredibly bold and courageous, and some would say sometimes foolhardy. And
Kettle Creek and Musgrove's Mill
and his commanding officer was another Georgian named Benjamin Few. And so Few and Clark were down there with help from McCall and Hammond and all these South Carolina guys. And for whatever reason, Clark took part of that Patriot force.
Okay.
They would probably had 100 in all. Maybe he took 25, 30.
Yep.
And went out to see if they could stir up some trouble. That's the way one of the pension accounts talk about it. Mm-hmm. Another account is that Few sent Clark out to scout, and if you should find anything, let us know. And well, regardless of what, they found the foraging party, which they would call a plundering party.
Right.
And so they were part of their force. The foragers they found were just a small part of their force. Neither of them really knew what the other had.
Right.
And so the Clark and his patriots chased these loyalists back to wherever they were running to. And I always kind of wish there was someone on the sideline that could be saying, "It's a trap."
Seems like it should be, right. No, don't go, don't follow them, yeah.
So they get into the edge of this encampment that these, this little band of ragtag loyalist militia trying to carry chickens and pigs and stuff come in there, and they get over the rise. And Eric, what do they see?
They saw the militia band coming down the road quickly toward their camp. And it greatly surprised. Another element of surprise I captured in the second painting. Tried to. The loyalists in the camp were greatly surprised
because they were just relaxing. They were just relaxing, right, at the camp there.
That's what I have. They're cooking over the fire, and one of the elements I wanted to put in there that was the element of surprise. One of the figures I put in was a loyalist. Two loyalist soldiers, they're cooking in the iron pot over the fire, cooking their stew. The sun's low in the sky. And the one cooking the stew sees up the road, and he's raising his head and said and thinks, what's going on? Well, the other soldier at the on the other side of the pot has his back turned. He can't see what's coming down the road, and he kind of looks up like, "Do you see something? What do you see back there?" So try to,
they were totally surprised.
Some of them had retrieved their muskets. Some had fastened bayonets. It seemed to be a rather irregular response to the militia because they arrived so quickly, the Patriot militia.
Now,
But they did oppose them, and shots were fired. I've got a couple of loyalists who were injured and or dead.
And can I add something to that?
no, Wade, you cannot. No, go ahead.
There was another piece of the surprise.
Okay.
And that is when Clark and his men finally came up and saw what they were up against. It wasn't just another loyalist militia force around a camp getting surprised. It was several hundred red-coated provincial soldiers struggling to put bayonets on rifles. And it was a much bigger force than they had any idea
True.
would be out there.
And I guess the Patriots didn't have a large group at all, did they?
No, they were like
not like that.
They had already sent word that we have engaged the enemy, and they kept looking back in the woods, and
Nobody was
coming, and it
So what
was-
happened? So what happened when this coming together of forces? Were the Patriots destroyed, or
So Elijah Clark got shot off his horse.
shot off his horse?
Yeah. James McCall got shot in the arm, and his horse went down with him. He was tangled up in the tack, and it was pretty much turning into a chaotic retreat because they were so outnumbered.
Right, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, and that's when the running battle really ensued. Was the British? Of course, they were surprised too, so it took a while for them to get ready. And the Patriots that didn't have time to get on their horses took it on the chin, and there were probably at least 24 Patriots killed,
Wow.
and far fewer loyalists lost their lives. But then the battle raged for a couple of miles down into the Long Canes. Again, did they go to the Long Cane, what we think of now as the Patterson's Bridge area, or did they go to the Forks of Reedy Branch, or were they much closer to Whitehall and were somewhere between Vergerie and Cedar Springs? These are all questions.
Sure. Now, what about the fact that night was coming? I mean, in this battle, I mean, did they stop for the night and pick it up the next day, or what happened?
I don't think anyone called a timeout.
Well, I just wondered because at night, I mean, it became more difficult, right?
No, normally, during the Revolutionary War era, armies didn't fight at night because of course, sight. The
Right.
fish is greatly limited.
Right.
Loading your muskets, it was usually a daytime battle that happened. So I imagine it played out as the sun went down and got dusky and dark.
Yeah.
And that may be why the British eventually decided to let them go. A large portion of the Patriot militia got away and went back towards the Saluda River to the north, and they just kind of stopped chasing them, probably because it was too late.
Right. Now, I understand, or what I've read some, is that the Loyalists could not figure out South Carolina's method of fighting. That they were not the regular type fighting force. Is that true or not?
I would say not, because I think the kind of creative, non-traditional fighting forces on both sides, both the Patriots and the Loyalists, who were local militia. Mm-hmm. I mean, both sides did all kinds of crazy things.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes brilliant, sometimes
Stupid.
deadly. Yeah, I mean,
Not well
stupid,
thought out,
tragic. They were massacres. So, I think what you say might be true when you talk about the swamp fox in the Low Country and how he was able to hide in the swamps
Okay.
and harass a lot of more kind of buttoned up, red-coated British soldiers. But in the backcountry, this was mostly just militia against militia. Sometimes it was as much like gang warfare as it was.
Now, out of curiosity,
military.
did the women have any role in this? What part did women play in this?
In this battle,
Well, not in the but in the general.
oh, there was some. Oh yeah, there's some. You have some in '96, and
Weren't the women good at taking what they could hear from the loyalists as spies and this type of thing? I mean, I've read some of this kind of stuff. True or not true?
There's a lot that we don't know about how things went down, but often I think the intel, like when Colonel
Jane Black Thomas in '96, who got on her husband's horse or son's horse and fled to Spartanburg to warn, her children of the incoming. Those things went on, and we just don't know as much about them.
Yeah, somebody tipped off Isaac Allen that the Patriots were 6 miles down the road. We have no idea who. It could very well have been a woman.
Yeah, or children. I think so.
Someone perceived as a non-combatant.
Right, exactly.
Great people to talk to.
And
to
there
try
is
to
a
get
good show, I hate to say show, but a TV program, SE250, just released. It's on ETV. It's been on twice, so it's still there. It's those are our stories. It's Indian, Cherokee, Catawba, African American women. It's a great show. I don't know if they're going to do a second one, but the first one, Bill Davies, who's from native of Greenwood, is on the SC250 commission. Vernon Burton,
right?
He was on there. So others telling those stories that a lot of them we knew about, and some others they're finding out about in different areas. That's one of the missions of SC250, is to find other stories. That was one of our missions in the beginning, was if we find other stories, we will tell them, or if you know stories, tell us so we can research them and tell them. We haven't found those. We haven't been presented with those. We would love to find others.
Right. But the other thing is, when we think about going from here to 96, we figure 15 minutes, right? Maybe, right? Back then, it was a real trip, wasn't it, Eric, to go from where they were going to where they were going?
It was. Roads were narrow. They were bad. They were rutted out. And it was, many of them had developed for the settlers to come to this area, and between places from Indian trails that they had used for many years beforehand.
Sure.
But yeah, travel was terrible back then.
So to go from one to the other, it took a while to get from one place to the other.
It took typically to get from the town 96 to Charleston. It took 10 days to 2 weeks.
10 days.
One way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is unbelievable. Now, Eric, do you have another painting, or do you just have 2 paintings, or is there a third, or just
those were the 2 for Long
the 2?
Canes.
Okay.
Those were 2.
He did 2 paintings. The 2 he described from narrative work.
Right.
That would be the second and third marker, or the second and third sign,
right.
Interpretive sign. The first is a map, and Wade he created a map of the battle scene or the battle events placed over the 1820 Robert Mills map of the area at that time. And he might kind of describe a little bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to show where the important points like 96 and Whitehall and the sprawling Long Cane settlements and some of the other settlements were. But I also drew a fairly large kind of starburst that was labeled battle area. We don't know where exactly within this area it happened, but it was probably within this area. So that is superimposed on probably the closest detailed map that we have to that era, even though that's 40 years later. In 1820. A lot of the roads were the same.
Why are you so passionate about this?
Can you tell I'm passionate?
Yes,
about
I
this?
can. That's why I want to know. Why are you so passionate?
That's why we keep him busy. That's why he drove from Atlanta to Franklin to Greenwood.
I'm passionate about a lot of things, particularly if it has to do with, places that have historic significance. And to me, having events like this go down on land that we all know and drive through, and it's woods and it's farm fields and it's still dirt roads, and you can kind of imagine much better than you can if you're trying to track the movements of Union and Confederate forces in Atlanta,
Right,
the Battle
right.
of Atlanta, which I spent a lot of time in Atlanta, and we're just so fortunate to have this rural landscape where this stuff happened, and I get passionate about making sure people know and remember that this happened here, that hill or that road, or
Right.
that embankment on this old road. That's a colonial road. That's the Cherokee Path. Nathaniel Greene rode down that way.
Right.
It's important to get that stuff out.
Yeah. Well, I see the passion, and I think you made a good point, because if you go to Atlanta, it's really hard to find those old battle places, isn't it now?
Yeah, they've got historical markers up, which are impressive, but they're in the middle of, concrete jungle.
And that's what we're trying to do so much, is to make sure that we mark these places now. We're researching them, and we've been doing it, and we want to mark them now, because now is our time. And, speaking of these three, when you come up, you're going to see the map first that we described, and you're going to find your place relative to what it was then and what it is now. And then you're going to see the story that Eric has put on canvas, and we're going to have them there in this little town of Troy, so people can go to Troy and spend time. There's much more to Troy.
There is.
Dr. Nora Davis, who was the first director of the state marker system. Every marker in the state of South Carolina owes indirectly to a Troy resident, Dr. Nora Davis, who created the marker system in the state of South Carolina. So, there's so much there, and we want to make sure that Troy is a part of that, and that's one of the other reasons. If you go to Troy right now, there are two Celebrate the 250 in South Carolina banners in that park that the town of Troy has already bought and put up in preparation for the 250. So they are involved, and they are excited. The town of Hodges took money out of their coffers to fund the marker for the town of Hodges and Captain Hodges marker. I spoke last week to a garden club. I got a check the next day from one of the ladies in the garden club. So people are invested, and people are getting invested in this story and reaching out, which makes it so much more important and makes our work feel good.
Well, it validates your work.
And it validates
it. Yeah, I think that's
exactly
pretty
right.
cool. Now, Eric, where will the paintings be? I mean, you've done these paintings. Are they oil, or what are they?
They're acrylic.
Okay.
They're acrylic, and they're on canvas, and they measure 36 by 24 by 48.
Okay. Good
is,
size
is,
paintings.
is their measurement, which approximates the interpretive signage approximates what they'll be. So so the paintings themselves, the purpose of doing those was to get quality digital images of those, and then send the digital images to there's a company in Pennsylvania called Paneer, and they do a lot of work for the National Park Service, of course, which is near and dear to me.
Right.
We worked with them over the years. They do great work. They have produced these.
So
from
they've
Battle of Long
produced an
Kings.
image that is
Yes.
going to be able to be on some signage or something to showcase this.
Yeah, the images, as far as the paintings themselves,
Right.
Okay, we'll have those on display, the original paintings at the old schoolhouse in Troy.
Okay.
During the ceremony.
During the
right.
ceremony.
And after the ceremony
Right.
at the reception. Now, afterwards,
Right.
they are now, part of the 250. And,
South Carolina 250.
well, South Carolina 250, Greenwood
Greenwood
250,
250, okay.
and, part of this group. And we
So
haven't
where
really,
you
we
don't
haven't decided, but, we've got a great museum. We've got great places in Greenwood that can share that story. We've also partnered with the museum. We're hoping to have a speaker series in June, hint, hint, for some great events and some great speakers for local things like Williamson and Whitehall and Francis Salvador and 96 and the connection with Fort Charlotte and events leading to the Revolution. We are going to be unveiling and putting a marker to Williamson and Whitehall. I think it came today.
I measured the crate today.
The crate is here. So
the crate is here.
we have
Very
another
good.
marker to Williamson and Whitehall, which will be in that area. And we are looking to get a marker. We're in the final stages of working on a marker to Captain John Montague. Have you been down Sample Road lately?
Yes,
Have
yes.
you seen that?
Yes, I
That
saw
work
that.
has been done by our group. I'll give Loy Sarton a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of props for him helping to do that. There have been others, the SAR and some other guys. We've met 3 times. Leadership Greenwood met to help clean that. So we're working. We're going to put a marker there as well. We have some plans to Gervais. We don't mention Gervais yet. We have not gotten there, but John Louis Gervais and Herrenhausen, another giant in our area. The skirmish at Swansea's Ferry. We have some other things to do, and as you know, it takes a lot of time and effort, and we're trying to get to them
As you can.
as we can.
Well, we are here this evening with Chip Tinsley, Eric Williams, Wade Harrison. We're talking about the event that is going to be held on April 18th, the Battle of Long Canes, and it is going to be at 1 o'clock, and if it's raining or not nice weather, they're going to do it on Sunday at 1 o'clock. That will be at the Wisteria Community Park in Troy. So this is going to be a great event, and this is an event that is not only for adults but also for children to get an idea of what our lives were like. And when you want to bitch and complain, you need to think about how it was back then, folks. Let me tell you. That's right. So I did want to ask Eric about what's coming up this weekend out there at the National Park right there in 96.
It's going to be a big weekend, April 11th and 12th, this Saturday and Sunday, the annual 96 Crossroads event. They will have probably 60 or 70 living historians, reenactors there dressed in historic clothing. I'll be dressed out. I'll be portraying one of the regulators from 1767 and 68. But they'll have soldiers, they'll have civilians, they'll have cannons firing, they'll have muskets firing, campfire cooking, but something different this year is there are going to be 3 different dramatic skits which always catch people's attention. We always enjoy doing those. I'm involved with that for one of the groups. But it just helps people make that connection that these were ordinary people in the 18th century, just like we are today. So the concerns, the fears they had, the anger they had, the happiness they had. We're all human beings.
Right.
So we try to make that connection. You asked a while ago, why should people today be interested in what happened back then?
Right.
Well, this is a way this weekend to get connected with living history. And over the years,
Great event for children.
well, absolutely. They'll have
Yes.
children's activities.
Right.
You know, want to come through the camps. The living historians are friendly. You know, please come to our camp and we'll let you see what we're doing. And sometimes they allow the public to participate in what they're doing.
Right.
And 96 is so big right now that it's even mentioned on Outlander, the last 2 episodes.
Oh my God.
96 is on Outlander right now. So that's how big 96 is. So get to 96 and visit.
Yeah, well, and you know that it is such a great to walk through there and think about what was going on. I've been and I've seen the musket demonstrations before, the cannons. You used to be in the doctor playing a surgeon or whatever.
Still
out
do
there.
sometimes.
So yeah, and
One of my many personalities.
Okay, Eric. Anyways, they go all out. And I think one of the things is looking at the different encampments of the reenactors and what the kids are playing with and what they're doing. They're not on their cell phones, looking at their cell phones. I don't even think they're supposed to have those out there. So it's pretty interesting.
Well, I want to add something, too, that, for a lot of listeners or viewers that may not know, 96 National Historic Site is not just a local site. It's a unit of the National Park Service. And the
It's
National
hard
Park
to believe
Service,
that we have that right
the
in
National
96.
Park Service
yeah.
for years has been the American people's favorite federal agency because of the places we supervise and have under our jurisdiction, under our care. They're only 96 National Historic Site is one of only a few in South Carolina. And how lucky Greenwood County is, right where we live, to have a national park right here in our backyard. And we really want people to realize that, to come visit and realize what a treasure it is. Not just the Revolutionary War, but the history of 96 spans about 12,000 years that we talk about out there. Town sites, settlements,
Yeah.
2 battles in the Revolution, a battle in the Cherokee War, numerous archaeological sites. I mean, it just goes on and on. And if you're not a history person, if you're a
You can
nature
walk.
person, come walk the trails,
They
bird watch.
They do bird watching out there on
They do.
the first Saturday
Two
or something.
things I'm going to mention. One, in August, I think August 22nd, somewhere around in there, the 50th anniversary of 96 being a National Historic Site. So
Wow.
they'll have a
True.
birthday party. I think last year I saw the statistics, and I may be off. $7.1 million come into Greenwood County as a direct and indirect result of the 96 National Historic Site.
Well, I was going to say, here we are right here in Greenwood. We don't think about it as a viable place to
economic-
go. We
Yeah.
think about all the other people get excited and come in. So
Yes.
it needs to be something that people
100
visit.
I think it was 121,000 visitors. I've got the statistics. I didn't bring them with me, but I got them for a speech I did last week and used those. And that's, once again, the second part of SC 250. First is history and doing what we're doing here, but it's also ecotourism, getting people off the beaten path, getting them to 96, getting them to Hodges, getting them to Troy, getting them to these areas to buy Coca-Cola, to spend money on gas, and do the things that we need them to do in these little communities to help our economy. And that's part of our mission in SC 250 and Greenwood 250.
Absolutely. Well, Wade, we are almost out of time. What would you like to say in closing here today?
2 things. Nature is also history, so keep that in mind as you visit places like 96 and the Long Canes. The last thing I'll say is that what happened after this battle is that one of those 2 officers that were not involved came back to the Patriot cause. His name was Andrew Pickens, and some say that had he not been able to rally the troops at various occasions after that we may not have been as successful as we were. So it was in its way, though it was small and it was sort of accidental, it was a
Right.
pivotal conflict.
Absolutely. And Eric, how about you? What would you like to say in closing?
Just for people to get connected with the past, these events coming up, the dedication of the 3 interpretive sites of Long Canes, a wonderful opportunity to come and find out why it's important, as we've discussed today. They will be living historians there, dressed out as well, and just to realize that history does not have to be numbers and dull and boring like so many people say it is. It can be it can be a grand experience, and there are lots of chances around to get those experiences if you just look around and try to come.
Absolutely. Well, this is coming up on April 18th at 1 o'clock down there at the Wisteria Community Park in Troy, South Carolina. All right, Chip, I'm going to give you the last word here. What do you got to say?
Well, I just want to thank all of our partners and our committee members and the people who've helped. We've had a lot of help. We've had, these 2 guys here. There are others out there that have helped us a lot. They don't do it for the money. They do it, as you said a minute ago, for the passion and the love of it, and we thank them. We thank all of the others that are helping us out. There have been a lot of people. The county has helped out, the city of Greenwood. There have been other people that have, touched us in other ways. But once again, as Eric just said, I echo that history is not boring. We blame the schools. We say the schools don't teach history. They don't do this. Well, they're not going to. So get off the blame game.
Right.
It is our responsibility. If you want to blame, you look in the mirror. There's the blame. Go yourself and get your grandchild, get your nephews and your neighbors, and take them. Take them to 96. Take them to Whitehall. Take them to Troy when we have this. Take them to Hodges. Take them to these places. Go to McCormick. Go to Abbeville. There's a lot there. We were all together and we're still together. So go to these places and learn and tell them, I don't know what this is about. I'm learning when you are. Or this is what I know. Or ask someone and find out. My wife hated history, and I started taking her on history vacations. And we got right outside of Gettysburg, and I said, okay, I'm going to the conference for 3 days, and you're going to Hagerstown to shop. She said, absolutely not. I said, what? She said, I didn't come all this way and not go to Hagerstown. To go to Hagerstown, I'm going to go to Gettysburg. So the first day when I was at the conference and I was at these places and going through these places, I came back and I said, what did you do today? She said, I went to Little Round Top. And that's not the words of my wife. So if my wife can get out and step and find out, that's what it's all about, getting out and going and finding out. And as Eric said, it's not about reading it. It's about living it.
Absolutely.
And if you do that, take your kids, take your wives, take your husbands, find out what history's really. And there's a lot in Greenwood. There's a lot to learn and a lot to find out. And we'll be glad to help you any way we can. And that's what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. Well, it's been great having you here. Thank you for coming out this afternoon. I think it's been a fascinating conversation. If you missed it or just heard part of it today, you can, of course, go back and watch it on Facebook. It is on Facebook, WCRS Radio. It's also will end up on our website in a couple of days. It will be on WCRS 1450am.net. So check that out. Go back, like it, share it. Get everybody to know what's happening. It seems like it's so distant and so far away, but it's right here and you can touch it. It's right up the road, not very far at all. We're blessed from that standpoint. Thank you all for coming out today.
Thank you
for the invitation.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for us. This is WCRS Radio right here in Greenwood. We are now going to drop the curtain and we will play the music. And that's going to do it for us here today. Bye-bye, everybody.